Our latest class breakdown here at 24/7 Sports is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I am Tom Loy alongside Director of Scouting Andrew Ivins and National Analyst Blair Angulo. Ivins, let's look at the day one impact guy. Who is your ready-to-play player in the 2026 class headed to South Bend?
Well, Tom, Blair, I wrote down two names here, and I'm not going to use two because I don't want to steal one from you. But five-star safety Joey O'Brien, I think he's the best robber in the class. And what I mean by that, this guy just generates takeaways, right? We've seen it on Friday nights. We've seen it on the 7-on-7 circuit. We've seen it in camps. The ball skills, the instincts, the field vision, it's all there. And Joey O'Brien, he is in the mold of a Kyle Hamilton. He is a taller, a longer safety with endless range. And I think why we are so convicted about Joey O'Brien and where we have him in our top 247 is he's really ramped up the physicality as a senior. That was kind of the question mark for him. All right, can he come up in the hole? Can he get a big running back on the ground? And he has done that as a senior. And, look, Notre Dame, no one has recruited the secondary as good as them. They got a log jam at safety. They got a log jam at the cornerback positions. I think Joey O'Brien is going to find a way onto the field in year one, maybe as a sub-package defender, right, on third and long. He's just that good. He can go get the football. So Joey O'Brien, for me, I think we're going to see him as a true freshman.
I'm going to go with a player that keeps getting better every year we see him, and that's Devin Fitzgerald, is stepping out of the shadow of his dad, Larry Fitzgerald, obviously probably one of the best receivers in NFL history. Devin has really carved out a nice role for himself on the outside there, playing for Brophy Prep in Phoenix. It's tough, right? When you're a Fitzgerald and you've got that stitch on the back of your jersey, everyone's going to expect the world, and maybe a bit unfairly, but I think he's starting to deliver on some of that upside, some of that promise, some of the legacy. And for him to commit to Notre Dame when he did over the summer, over some other blue blood programs, I think spoke volumes to his own confidence level. He could have easily maybe not gone to a place that has such a big spotlight, but I think he's going to embrace that. And from a technique standpoint, from a skill set standpoint, he keeps improving. He's awesome in traffic. I think he's got that physicality to go up for the football in traffic and bring down the ball. I think still getting better as a route runner. That's obviously where his dad earned a lot of his money. But I think Devin, as the top-rated receiver in this Notre Dame class, has a chance to step in there, make an impact, and carve out a nice role for himself. Maybe not the number one target for Notre Dame next season, but I think we're going to see him on the field and we're going to see him making plays.
I get the benefit of going last. I was torn between Joe O'Brien, five-star edge Rodney Dunham, even top 100 safety Aiden Pouncey, who everybody at Notre Dame is raving about, but I settled on Joey O'Brien. He's a guy that we've seen so many times, just absolute ball hawk in the secondary, incredibly gifted athletically. He's long, he's rangy. He's got the frame to add weight, which he'll need to do. But what I love most about him is the elite ball skills. I mean, this kid, the comps to Kyle Hamilton, the former Notre Dame great, currently suited up for the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, it's easy to see why everybody thinks he's such a special player. Now, I want to see more physicality. I want to see that continue. Ivan's brought it up. But again, Joey O'Brien, man, that safety duo with him and Aiden Pouncey, Notre Dame is fired up about that one. Let's look at the quarterback of the class. As of today, you got Noah Grubbs, a three-star quarterback right there in your backyard. Ivans, break it all down. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I mean, a kid I've had a ton of exposure to, Tom, and he's played a lot of football on Friday nights in one of the highest classifications in the Sunshine State. I think from a mechanics standpoint, everything you want, from a work ethic standpoint, what you want to see. The big question mark with him is going to be the field vision, right? And mitigating risks. And you look at all these quarterbacks headed to play Power 4 football, Noah Grubbs and his completion percentage isn't where the rest of the pack should be. And the INT rate is certainly up there, right? He's a guy that will take some risks. And other times, the ball ends up in a defender's hand. So, if Notre Dame's able to clean that up, I think this is a guy that can absolutely outplay his ranking. I think for me, Tom and Blair, my question is, who's the guy that's next there in South Bend? We were very high on CJ Carr, I think highest in the industry. And the good thing for Notre Dame is you got him for 2 more years. But since then, I think the one area, if you're trying to poke a hole, and Marcus Freeman when it comes to constructing this roster, who's the next fighter pilot at quarterback? I don't know if they have found that individual yet. Remember last cycle, it was Deuce Knight. They end up losing him to Auburn. Well, hey, guess what? Deuce Knight looked exactly like we thought he would be in his first action for the Auburn Tigers. So I like Noah Grubbs. I put him in that CJ Carr category. Not yet for me, right? And we'll certainly see. I think he's a guy that's going to need some developmental time there in South Bend.
I think obviously a project, right? When you pop on the film, a lot of tools, but more upside than there is in terms of just immediate sheer talent. I think this is going to be important. I know, Drew, you mentioned what this means for the quarterback room. I think, what does this mean for the 2027 cycle, right? I think now the pressure kind of ramps up, the fire under that seat in terms of getting an elite signal caller. I think that's immense. That's going to be super, super important for the Irish to clean that up and make sure they get a difference maker, a day one type of impact potential quarterback in that cycle in 2027. I think that's going to be one of the biggest to-do list items for the Irish because, Grubbs has an opportunity to make an impact, maybe not early. So there's some question marks about potentially what that could look like in the future. But right now in 2027, now that the 26 cycle and that's kind of in the rearview mirror, we have to look ahead and that's going to be, I think, a big item for me.
There's a lot to like when it comes to Noah Grubbs. He's a great leader, outstanding kid, extremely smart, better athlete than most realize. Like, he can move, pick up some first downs, but it's just the arm talent, in my opinion, is just not that next level that Notre Dame needs. Now, again, he's a guy that's going to take some time, slower burn, get developed, get stronger, hit the weight room, and he could absolutely overnight become a dude and be the guy to lead this team for a couple years. But they need to hit between him and then 2027 quarterback Teddy Gerard, the early commit for the Fighting Irish. They need a win there to follow CJ Carr, who will be there for this year and then potentially next year, and then he's out. So, again, I think big picture, I'm a little surprised they didn't pivot earlier and add a second quarterback, whether it was Tommy Carr, who's now headed to Michigan, CJ's younger brother. They had a really good shot early on with five-star quarterback Diabell, who's headed to Texas. And another one with interest in Notre Dame early was Briggs Cherry, top 247 guy or four-star guy, headed to Louisville. So there was a lot of really talented quarterbacks that had interest. Look, in the end, Notre Dame absolutely thinks Noah Grubbs can win a lot of games for them. We'll see how it plays out in South Bend. Let's move on to the underrated guy of the 2026 commit list for Notre Dame. Ivans, who do you got?
Well, I was laughing earlier. Blair said Devin Fitzgerald is his favorite wide receiver in this Notre Dame class. And I would agree with that. But hey, they got 5 wide receivers committed. And I think if you ask 5 different people to rank these guys after diving into the tape, you're going to get 5 different answers. It's really hard to kind of find a pecking order. The one I love is Bubba Frazier out of the state of Georgia. He reminds me of Brashard Smith, who signed with Miami, played wide receiver, transferred to SMU, transitions to running back. Now he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. And Bubba Frazier, to me, I mean, the measurables, the testing, and more importantly, the game tape is near identical. I think this guy is a chunk play machine with his agility, with his creativity, with his speed, with his burst, right? I think Notre Dame's going to start him off in the slot, but I think he's a guy where, hey, you can get him involved in that jet sweep game. Hey, you can put him in at running back in certain situations and try to get him the ball in space. So I'm a huge Bubba Frazier guy. I know I just brought up that Brashard Smith comp. I think another one you should look at is Desmond Reed at Pittsburgh, just another utility guy that can make things happen. So to me, Bubba Frazier, I'm excited about him going to Notre Dame because they haven't really had a lot of individuals like this where, they're turning that 5-yard gain into 15 yards, right? They're taking the 15-yard play and they're racing into the end zone. So I think with Marcus Freeman and his staff, since he took over for Brian Kelly, Notre Dame has done an excellent job of going out and getting these guys with juice.
Gentlemen, I have this visual of a high motor defender in a Marcus Freeman defense. I'm thinking like Maris Leofau with the hair flowing out the back of the helmet, Junior Tui Halamaka, Madden Faremo in this 2025 class. And I think in 2026, it could be Tiki Hola, the 3-star defensive lineman from the state of Texas, had over 24 scholarship offers when he came off the board. It sounded like Notre Dame beat out SMU for his signature. And, I think the thing that I like about him is he's a gap shooter. He's able to get low, and his pad level plays really low to the ground, and he's able to kind of explode out of his stance. I think that's going to be a way where he can kind of make an impact in that Notre Dame defensive front. Maybe not the biggest defensive lineman, but I think with development, with some of the weight room staff and the nutrition, I think this is a player who maybe a couple of years down the road we look back on and we wonder, maybe how was he a 3-star? I think he's maybe limited from a length standpoint, from a physical upside standpoint, but the motor checks out. I really loved watching his tape, and I think he can really go. And I'm excited to see the flow out of the helmet with Tiki Hola as well.
It's funny. The 3 guys I was looking at were Bubba Frazier and Tiki Hola, and then my guy, top 247 wide receiver, Devin Fitzgerald. Number 215 overall, number 28 at his position. But, man, I've seen this kid multiple times in person, and he is such a playmaker. He may not blow you away with the testing numbers and the data, but he's so smooth, so polished. Obviously comes from great stock with his dad being Larry Fitzgerald. But, man, I just think this is a kid that's going to prove himself to be a difference maker in South Bend. Might play early like you called Blair Angulo, but there's something about this kid. Super excited about his potential. If one day we're talking about an All-American, it genuinely wouldn't shock me. But biggest takeaway, Ivans, let's look at the class. Both of you guys, you start, Ivans, but give me your big takeaway. What stands out from this group?
Yeah, no one's talked about an offensive lineman when it comes to the Fighting Irish so far. So, I'll say this. I think this is a group they got coming in that could be a Joe Moore Award winner at some point down the line. So that was my first one. But on my second one, I think I got to get this out there. Notre Dame is somehow raising the ceiling of its secondary. The Irish have had 3 defensive backs selected in the NFL draft over the past 2 years. That's only going to continue with Leonard Moore and Christian Gray. But Tom, Blair, I love this group that they have committed. Obviously, it starts with Joey O'Brien, but you also got Kari Adams. You got Aiden Pouncey. You got Chaston Smith. All 4 of those guys are over 6 feet. All 4 of those guys have ball skills. All 4 of those guys can play multiple spots in the secondary. They can play some safety. They can play some corner. They are versatile pieces. And look, when Mike Mickens offers, right, I think everyone needs to, look at the tape. The other thing is when Mike Mickens offers, you might as well just go in a different direction because he's going to get those guys across the finish line. I mean, he locks up these guys. So to me, Notre Dame's secondary has quickly turned into one of the best units in all of college football, despite, continuing to lose guys to the pros, and they are reloading, right? And they're reloading with guys that have monster ceilings. So I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you got to be excited about what they have on the back end of that defense.
I think the 19 blue chippers, when you look at the numbers out of the 27 commitments, I think that speaks volumes to this recruiting potential. And I think we always in recruiting wonder, how is this win going to help us recruit? How is this season going to help us recruit? I don't know if we ever see that immediate payout. We see it in the following classes. And I think this is what we're seeing out of Notre Dame in 2026, considering what they did in the previous season, reaching the national championship, and making a run in the college football playoff. I think it had an impact in this 2026 cycle. I think that's my biggest takeaway, is that Marcus Freeman was able to parlay that and really capitalize on what they did on the field, showing the trajectory of the program and really ramping things up on the recruiting trail. Tom, Andrew, I know we always talk to recruits, their families, coaches, trainers, and they always gush about what's going on in South Bend. I don't know if we've ever gotten a bad feedback about an unofficial visit or a game visit or junior day or Irish invasion or whatever event that Notre Dame puts out. But now with the results on the field and what they've been able to do and kind of the vision that Marcus Freeman had shown, you see it translate on the recruiting trail. They're pacing for a top 5 finish again. I would not be surprised if this becomes a regular occurrence with Marcus Freeman there at the helm.
I'm taking a similar approach to you, Blair. Just a really impressive job by Notre Dame, especially new general manager Mike Martin, new director of recruiting Carter Almond, just buttoned up, tight operation that they're targeting the right guys. They're evaluating guys that are stock up guys for us throughout the process at 24/7 Sports. So really strong recruiting class. I think it's loaded with difference makers all over the place. Like, yes, I do think that they could have done a little bit more at a couple spots. notably maybe quarterback, linebacker, I think a little bit along the offensive line. I know Ivan's brought them up, but again, that's a group loaded with potential. So if they can reach that potential, if they can reach that peak, this class top to bottom is going to be incredible for years to come. That wraps it up for another one here. For Andrew Ivins, Blair Angulo, I'm Tom Loy. As always, thanks for watching.